all right? I'm not standing up, okay, but I'm not a track coach. I'm an offensive lineman, okay? You don't have to be a track coach. You don't have to be an expert, and you won't get your kids hurt, okay? You have to be committed to doing it. You have to be consistent with it, and you can sprint year round, okay? So in this little clip here, all right, this is our very unathletic quarterback, all right? Okay. But here you see him coming, okay, down the field, all right? Now it's not perfect, okay? But he's done everything we're asking him to do, okay, in our speed development program. He's kind of put it into practice, in the form here. You're seeing what it's supposed to look like, okay? Knees up, toes up, okay? Arms may cross midline a little bit, but not horrible, okay? This kid right here is freaky fast, okay? And his form was never really great, okay? But we weren't focusing on him. I wanted you to focus on our non-athletic quarterback, okay? So again, but we taught this, okay? It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, okay? They're not unless they're track athletes, okay? They're football players. It's hard to get perfect form, okay, if they're not doing it all the time, like a track kid, okay? So again, you don't have to be a track coach, all right, to get to work at getting faster, to get your kids faster. You don't have to be an expert, all right? And you're not going to get your kids hurt, especially if you're consistent throughout the year, okay? If you're not consistent and you take your kids out and run them full speed without having anything built up, then yeah, you're probably asking for your kids to get hurt, okay? All right, so why sprinting matters, okay? So this is us doing our flying tens right here. Okay, this is one of our defensive linemen. This is let's see, for big boy here, I want to say this is a 15-yard build in. And then this is I think it's a 15-yard build in over here too. Yeah, it is. Okay, so why spring matters. Okay, use it or lose it. Okay, 5 days is how long it takes to start losing speed. Okay, it's not that long for strength. All right, I don't have that written in here, but strength, you got a little bit longer window before you start losing strength. Speed, not so much. All right, it drives neural capacity. You're getting the central nervous system firing all cylinders. Okay, speed reserve and repeat sprint ability. All right, so you got to sprint fast. You got to have it in reserve. If you don't, when you go to turn it on, okay, one, you're not going to have the speed, and two, you're asking your kids to get hurt. All right. Repeat sprint ability in football. You got to be able to sprint over and over and over and over again. Right. So it's 3-4 second plays, 20-second rest, 25-second rest, depending on, the team you're playing, whether they're tempo or, double wing, whatever. Okay. But you got to be able to turn it on and turn it off, turn it on and turn it off over and over and over again. Okay. And then sprinting also is an injury prevention tool. All right. So by sprinting consistently, okay, we're helping our kids reduce the incidence of injury. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what our off-season football program looks like for speed. January through March, okay, it's roughly 12 weeks, okay. We're going to record flying tens 2 times a week, all right. Record, rank, publish. If you've ever seen Tony Holler and Feed the Cats, that's his deal. Record, rank, publish. Something that I started probably 4 or 5 years ago, and you'll see some of that in a minute. Kids love it, and it gives them something that they're trying to beat all the time. Okay. After we go through our 11 weeks of flying tens, then we're going to time 40s. Okay. When we get in April and May, okay, April, our kids we have most of our kids in class. Our coaches are taking the kids outside. We're putting catapults on them. They're practicing. They're sprinting at practice. I'm measuring it by watching their catapult data. Okay. So they have to hit a certain number of full speed sprints each week. Okay. June, 7-on-7. Not really worried about it. I'm not tracking catapult data there. I'm not going to do a ton of max velocity speed work during 7-on-7 season because June is absolutely slammed with 7-on-7s. If it's a multi-sport athlete, they're also doing basketball. Okay, so or baseball, whatever it is. So we focus on speed development in January through March. I track it during April and May during spring practice. And then June, we have 7-on-7. Okay. Some things I think that we need to make sure as coaches we understand. Okay. And I have to remind my football coaches of this because a lot of them help me run stations. Okay. One, technique takes time. Okay. You think about an offensive lineman that has to have the perfect step to get to the linebacker who's scraping to get to the running back who's running, a toss sweep or outside zone, whatever it is. Okay. But that offensive lineman has to have perfect technique, okay, to get there. All right. That's the goal anyway. It takes time for that kid to get there, right? It drives me bananas when a football coach comes into a speed session is like, why aren't his arms at 90 degrees, or why is he not doing this? Well, because it takes time to develop it. So you got to remember that. Okay, these kids are not track kids, they're football players. We're trying to teach them technique so that we can help them become better football players. All right. It's not ever going to be perfect because it's not the priority. All right. Be patient. You got to be patient with your kids when it comes to technique. It's not going to be perfect. Okay. You have to, once you start teaching it and watching it over and over again, you're going to start to look and see what is acceptable and what's not. Okay. It's like some kids are never going to get there. Right. So that little running back that I showed you in that first clip, okay, he is a lot of backswing when he ran. Okay. But he was also a 4.48 electronic time, right? So I don't really care what his technique looks like because he can fly. All right. But we still time flying tens and we still tried to work technique. Okay. But at the end of the day, if he wasn't fixing it, it's okay because he's fast enough to be a high school running back. All right. Train speed. Okay. Speed is not conditioning. And that's something I have to remind coaches about when they're working our stations is that, you know what, if they got a little idle time and they're standing around horse playing, talking too much, whatever, that's okay because they're resting for speed. It's not conditioning. Okay. There's a time for conditioning and there's a time for speed work. When you're working speed, they got to have rest time between every rep. All right. They got to have rest time from one station to the next. All right, acceleration versus max velocity, you got to train them separately, but you need to put emphasis on both, okay? Football is acceleration, okay? We all know that. Very rarely is there a max velocity, okay? But you want to have that ability to run max velocity, okay? And that's where that speed reserve comes in, all right? So train them separately, but place an emphasis on both.